break that. We need to break the mindset that says, if we wanted to do good, it's separate from making money.
Hi, welcome to the Blockchain for Humanity Fireside Chat. Today, we have Ashish Gadnis. He's the co-founder and CEO of BanQu.
And our vision is simple, right? 100 million people enabled out of poverty and $100 million in revenue.
He has been recognized for groundbreaking, for-profit and for-purpose innovation. We're going to hear much about this today. So we're going to move into the last section.
Cool. I am way caffeinated, so I apologize.
No, you're exactly at the level of energy that we want to have you. Don't worry.
Cool. Thank you.
Reaching now segment number 3. And
yes.
With Ashish, CEO and founder of BanQu. So now let's continue about BanQu Today. We want to, now you have given us a little bit of the background, also your own background, which has given us an entire picture of what it was that was necessary to bring it to what it is today. So now let's talk a little bit about that. And I have 3 simple questions for you. The first one, when was purpose crystallized in a way that it had defined everyone's team or everyone in the team's contribution to it? When was it like it was so clear? Nobody could ever hesitate what they were doing towards that.
To be honest, and I didn't answer one question is, which is how do we recruit people, right? When we recruit people, it's less about, I'm looking for, need to code and stuff like that. I asked actually just 2 fundamental questions. Is that I said, when you went to a restaurant the last time, did you ask the waiter's name? And that for me is kind of the BanQu ethos or ethical line, right? That's my first question. And if they say, yes, I know, then I know this person has the right moral compass, because if they take the time to find out the waiter's name, then you already have that BanQu DNA in you. And then the second is, are you good at the unknown, right? If you're looking for a very specific, what your job descriptions. And so I think those 2 kind of have, driven our hiring process. Is you got to live in the unknown, because that's where we've entered a territory where there is no comparable, right? So just kind of answering that question. But now, the moment that honestly kind of, if you say really kind of crystallized everything together was end of 2018, honestly, because we had spent about 3 years. We were in this rollout with AB InBev on the Zambia-Congo border. And, we had done this pilot. It had gone extremely successful, where especially women farmers, right? Women are smarter than men. We already know that. Were getting the SMS message, and they were coming and selling their cassava, and they were getting paid in cash, right? And they could hold on to their SMS message to cash out at a later date because it would be safe and things like that. And we were feeling really good, right? That, hey, we're empowering these farmers. But the pivotal moment was when a couple of the mama farmers said, this is great, but it's not exactly where we want it to be. And this is, talk about intelligence at a higher level, right? I was like, and see, I still get the chills, right? And these farmers said to us, do you know we use mobile money here in Africa? And I said, yeah, and M-Pesa and stuff like that. And she said, well, instead of me having to wait and go, get cash or wait 3 days because my husband's not going to hit me or whatever, because BanQu is great. I am getting my receipts, but I'm still having to cash out, right? She said, but if there's a way you could just send the money to my M-Pesa or, whatever, mobile money, right? And Vodacom, MTN, Airtel, then I can just pay for school fees. And that for me was this, whoa, because in an interesting way, we were building an ecosystem here, right? So the brand to the broker, to the co-op, to the farmer. But this group of farmers, especially these women, were so smart. They're like, well, there's this massive ecosystem here. So when we actually then connected to mobile money, and there's a little video, it's the first transaction we did early 2019, which was this mama farmer sold her cassava, and literally on her phone popped up the 50 or 60 or 100 kwacha. And without even us recognizing it, she's standing right next to me. She paid her kids' school fees through her SMS phone, because the school takes money in mobile money.
Right.
Right. So for me, I would say, and the entire, we kind of published this, and our entire team then rallied around this very simple fact that, yes, we sell software. Yes, we make money. Yes, we're for profit. Yes, blah, blah, blah. But the most fundamental thing was that this mother is bankable and now has opened an ecosystem in a way that none of us had thought about.
Exactly.
Right. And it's kind of, so for us, I would say, so I always kind of use that as the pivot point, because that is the true economic passport.
That's exactly it. It gives me also kind of.
Oh, yes.
I think it's a very special moment when things kind of come together, and let's say it wasn't that it validates, identifies the purpose, but it confirms that we are on the right way. This is it.
Yes.
And I think that that's an important step towards understanding what your purpose is and how that purpose really affects everyone in the team and how it's carried out to the external world. So that's a really interesting story. And I love, especially because you made the point about, I think it was Kenya, right? Or in Africa, where they have the e-money.
Yes, pretty much everybody uses e-money.
E-money. And it was in a study that I was doing, it was more or less understanding about the whole evolution of Africa. And it was not only until like 2000 that the people started getting the mobile access. And it was because cell phone brought it for the first time in 2000. Right. And then the whole world kind of changed after that. So we are kind of advancing with technology, advancing steps by, that evolution.
Absolutely.
And the ecosystem around that. So that's amazing. So
the one thing I would say, right, it still bothers me is that evolution, and I'm not saying because BanQu does it better than anybody else, but I think the missing link has been, as the technology has evolved, right, we have brought technology, right? So, most people in poverty have Facebook, for example, right? And mobile money, right? But I ask a simple question is that, yes, but have you changed their fundamental economic baseline? Exactly. Right? And it's, it's like poor people, the internet came to people in poverty, but then enabled them out of poverty.
Yeah.
Right. And I think we still have a lot of work to do. It's the good fight, as I call it, which is, it's not enough to say, that mother now basically has Facebook, right? And she's in a Facebook group where they can teach her how to do better farming. My fundamental premise is that mother has to be able to equally own that data set, right? It's very, very fundamental, right? It's if you don't, then you have not done anything different.
Exactly. No, it stays in the same place where we were.
Right.
So it's interesting that there is the whole sense about social innovation and how it can go towards behavioral changing and cultural forming. And it's really that when you bring those two together, how powerful that you see that solution is, and that price providing that solution has succeeded into it. So
exactly.
Great story. Now, from taking into consideration that we are a for-profit company,
yes,
was there at any point a tension between doing good and doing the right things, or making sound business decisions that will lead us to generate revenue?
There was never any tension because, the three of us as the founding partners, right, are anchored in the simple belief that we're always going to force us to do the right thing, even if it means that it might not mean a lot of revenue, right? And for us, as our thinking has evolved, we've kind of stayed true to that premise. But we've also come to recognize that we don't want the bleeding heart story. We don't want the CSR label, right? So the business decisions that we have made and continue to make, and you'll see us make, is that we want to educate, if you may, leaderships in organizations that, we doing good is not a separate bucket, right? And I think that's kind of, I'll give you another example, right? If you talk to Japan Tobacco, they're a client of ours, and this is public information because we're working with them to reduce child labor in multiple countries, and they are very simple and clear about it. They're like, we use BanQu because it allows us to make sure that the kids are in school, and if kids are not in school, which means they're in child labor, it is going to hurt our supply chain, right? So the doing good is children should be in class. It's just a table stakes for them, right? And what I'm trying to always have that tension, which is I force the CEOs. I ask a simple question. I said, name one farmer in your supply chain. Most CEOs can't. Yet they will walk around with the fair trade label on the bag of coffee. Yeah. And and I'm not trying to shame anybody, honestly, but I'm like, come on, right? You don't claim social good if you cannot name one recycler. And yours is the most used plastic or, cardboard that is, sitting on the streets from, Brazil to India.
That's interesting. And I love the fact that you brought the Japan Tobacco International example, because could come to mind is as well, okay, so you're cleaning my, let's say, my supply chain, child labor, but are we really solving a problem there? Like, for example, removing these children from this, supply chain, does that create another problem? Because if you tell me, well, we're going to pay exactly the same thing for these guys to go to school, then I will say, well, maybe that is a solution. But, please tell me what.
And it has to be an ecosystem. Right? Yeah, so what we've done is, Japan Tobacco, it's an ecosystem, right? So it's a layered problem. So you have to solve that the kid is not in the field. So that's where we come in. Second, you then build an ecosystem where the farming family, the household, right, has this economic passport, right, which is basically they are enabled because now their yield can get better. They have better access to inputs. And now you have a correlation that says, hey, look, if you continue to use children in your supply chain, I'm not going to buy your crop, right? Whereas in the old days, what would happen, you'd bring an NGO, they'd run a report, they'll say, 30% instances of child labor, but at the end of the day, you haven't aligned the incentives, right? But if you sit down now and say, hey, your kid is in class, the mother or farmer can enroll in a supplementary business skills, and you have your crop supply chain, right? You put all that together, then it's an ecosystem. If you just take a point solution, it doesn't work. Whereas, I give a simple example. It's like if I said to you, Grace, hey, I am a watch company, but in order for you to buy the watch from me, walk a mile and pick up the leather. Walk another 3 miles, pick up the glass, and walk another 4 miles, pick up the battery, and then come to me. I'll assemble your watch and sell it to you. It doesn't work that way, correct? You walk into a watch store, the entire ecosystem has come to you in a watch, right? And if it's all come together to watch, well, why are we not doing the same with people that are marginalized? We right now tell that mother, says, well, your data is with this microfinance institution. Your data is with this foundation. Your data is sitting with this, coffee company. It doesn't, I didn't tell you to go 4 places so that I could build your watch and sell it back to you, right? So that's the philosophy.
That's understandable. Yes, I see where you're coming from. So the last question here,
yes,
wrap up for this section, will be if you can give us a little bit of the characteristics that technology companies in our blockchain space will need to consider in order to create or transition in some cases, and I think most of them will have to be in the transition to a purpose-driven model that sees profit, purpose, impact, and scale.
Correct. I would say only 2 things, right? And we've learned it the hard way. One is don't build a company just because you want to build a company and you want to play the pity card, right? So I would really kind of give advice to tech companies is that a lot of tech companies have this entire, I can build this amazing app, or for example, shoe company, right? You buy one pair of shoe, we'll give a pair of shoe to a poor kid in Africa. I'm like, no, you just destroyed the economy there, right? So that's kind of one, unintended consequences. And then the second is don't fall in love with the technology. I would say that's the number one advice I'd give you, right? Because if you fall in love with your technology, you have compromised that mother. You've compromised that recycler, right? Never lose your, I use the word anchor, right? When we hire new people or when I'm in team meetings, I said, guys, at the end of the day, when you go to bed tonight, ask yourself a very simple question. What you did today at BanQu, did it tie to the anchor? And the anchor is very simple. Did you do something to create equality for that mother on the streets of Colombia that's picking up bottles so that she can feed her child tonight? And it's not based in pity. If the answer is yes, go to bed. If the answer is no, stay up and figure it out.
Figure it out. Exactly. Keep working at it until you get it.
Absolutely. Right. Because it's poverty, in my opinion, or all these tension issues, right? They have a romance to it, right? And I honestly, I just hate that because, I meet a lot of people who have they claim they, opened a school in Kenya and they're feeding this village for the last 7 years. And I'm like, shame on you, right? Okay. Because the whole thing was driven with this pity lens, right? And when I look at a mother in Congo or the refugees or, recyclers in Colombia, I don't look at them with anything but equal pride. Right? I'm like, you're a business person. I'm a businessman. You're going to sell your aluminum. You're going to sell your bottles that are going to go to Bavaria. Deal. Your past is your past. I can't change it. I understand your pain, but I'm nobody to give you a handout because that will then diminish your dignity.
I agree with you 100%. And I think that's probably one of the that makes us take the wrong approach. And
right.
When I looked at the CSR model, this corporate social responsibility, I almost start yawning every time I say that because I feel like it's like this thing, this very ineffective, slow moving type of program, well intended,
totally well intended,
very well intended, but it's not solving any problems. And as long as we keep treating this as a philanthropic mission, as a this is the good thing we need to do for the poor people, we won't be able to make any type of transformation, real transformation.
Exactly.
Which now we have the technology to do.
And now is more than ever, right? We're literally living in an unprecedented, very dangerous time, right?
Absolutely.
So I tell CEOs, you got to double down now, right? Exactly. You have to double down and say, I want to know who the miner is. I want to know who's picking up my plastic cans, right? I want to know the worker in the Bangladesh factory that made my jeans, right? And it's simple. But if you can't, then it's just lip service.
Exactly, it is. One thing that we do in Blockchain for Humanity, when we interact with our social entrepreneurs or the people that are working in this business, the first thing we want to find out is how close are you to the problem? How does that problem?
Exactly. Right. And if you can't live it, then don't do it.
You cannot describe it, if you cannot have that pain and understand how much it affects somebody else in that way that it affects you, then it's very very difficult to be able to scale something that has that particular.
Yes.
The other thing is this sort of going back to this CSR sort of model where the doing good part is always a box in that sort of chart, right? So it's right there. It's a box, and it has nothing to do with the rest of the organization.
It should be in your DNA.
Absolutely, but it has to be the core of your organization. It has to be the business model. It has to be the driver of you getting up, from bed every day.
Exactly.
For it, right? So that's what we're defining the purpose, and I see that you have defined that really, really well for you guys. So that's why I wanted to.
Right place at the right time. Very blessed.
Exactly it. That's exactly it. So this has been a wonderful experience for me. I think.
Thank you.
We could go on and ask, talk about more things. And I think that there's always a possibility that we do another series with you.
Oh, absolutely. We'll continue to add examples and happy to share them.
That sounds wonderful. I want to wish you the best of luck in all the stuff that you're doing, your endeavors. Keep doing the great things you do.
Keep us in your prayers. We need it.
You're always me. So I know that you would get there. because people like you succeed in what they do. So keep it up.
Thank you, Gus. Thank you so much.